In-depth discussion on the illegal mining crisis in the country. I am joined by Zenzele Ndebele, who is a Zimbabwean journalist and documentary maker on illegal mining activity called Environment Under Siege, Effects of Artisanal Mining in Zimbabwe, and Meshack Mbangula from the National Coordinator at the Mining Affected Communities United in Action. Good to have you both, gentlemen, on this program this afternoon. I'll start with you, Zenzele. Give us a sense of the situation regarding artisanal mining or illegal mining as we've come to know it. I mean, how has the economic downturn in South Africa and other parts of SADC indeed contributed to this rise of artisanal mining and the Zama phenomenon?
Yeah, basically the problem of illegal mining, it is a big problem in Southern Africa, in Zimbabwe and South Africa, and it is attributed to poverty, unemployment and inequality. And this has seen people, young men and mainly young men, going to these disused mines and trying to get gold. And unfortunately, it has become an economy of its own, or a crime economy, with all the ills that we are seeing, abuse of women, gangs, firearms. But it is really a huge problem. And looking at the situation whereby it is estimated that there are about 6,000 disused mines or old mines in South Africa, and about 600 of them in Joburg alone. So it's a problem that has been rising since the early 90s and is increasing every day. You remember that the precursor to these Zamazamas were the gangs known as Marashia, and they've been all sorts of forms, and it's now becoming a menace.
It's now becoming a menace. But Meshack, let me bring you into this discussion. Can you elaborate on the factors that are driving individuals, including migrants, to engage in this illegal artisanal mining despite the considerable risks that are involved here?
Let me start by saying, firstly, we should be looking at who really created this problem. When mining started in Southern Africa, or especially in South Africa, most of the people were collected all over Africa, Malawi, Zimbabwe, Lesotho, to come and work in Africa to dig out the minerals. And unfortunately, the mines, when after digging this gold or looting this gold, they never rehabilitated the land. They never had a closure of the mines and left it like that. So that's one problem. We're having these problems because of mine closure was not done very well, and not the land not rehabilitated, which was supposed to be used for other sectors. But after, like my leader says, 6,000 of these mines are left without rehabilitated. And after, the only thing that these miners who were working in the mines, they had only skills in mining. And when the mine closed, or they didn't have kind of a consistency plan to train them to be able to be marketable in other sectors. And when the mine closed down, the only thing that they can do is to know that their shaft switches are not closed, and they go back there. If you can be able to start being proactive, and what we did not only see the problem, but we engaged the MRD and say, look, there is this issue, and we're having our people working in these places. Can't we engage with these people, formalize this sector, and make sure who is in these places that are working in the Zamazamas? From 2014, and by then it was not overwhelming like it is now. And we spoke to them and we tried to engage, but unfortunately the MR was very stubborn to say, I'm not going to talk to the thugs, I'm not going to do anything. And unfortunately now it's out of control, and unfortunately enough we have not even seen the MRE engaging in these issues. All these are just reacting to this. We are just treating the symptoms, but we should be having the MRE to answer to these issues, because they should have made sure that this legislation is followed. We close the mine and this problem doesn't happen. And unfortunately, when we have this problem, we have to have the so-called plan B. What do we do with it? And as long as we don't engage, the police don't know all these shafts. Yes, in Rivali, they're just closing there, but tomorrow these people will be somewhere. And if we have formalized this sector, we have reformed this sector, definitely, believe me, we'll be able to generate more jobs and contribute to the economy of South Africa. But unfortunately, they believe in investment from outside. But we should have formalized this sector, decriminalized these people, and know who are these people.
Yeah.
But these people don't just smell gold. They know that they've been working in these mines. Thank you.
Bob Zenzele, what are some of the specific challenges faced by the South African government and also other governments in the SADC region, also looking into the regulatory agencies in enforcing laws on illegal mining? And speak to us about the potential solutions that have been proposed to address some of these challenges.
Yeah, he has already mentioned some of these solutions, that when mines are closed, they need to be proper closing of these mines so that the mines are rehabilitated and there's no shafts where people can go to. But also they need to address the whole chain, because what we are looking at the moment, when the police are chasing the Zamazamas, they are chasing the men at the bottom of the chain. He is just a runner who, when he's arrested today, there will be another runner tomorrow. Because this is an industry. So there are people who are buying the gold. There are companies involved in actually melting the gold. And there are companies involved in exporting the gold. This gold ends up in the mainstream economy.
Right.
But at a time where people are not getting anything. So the government of South Africa and the region at large need to come up with policies to say how either they need to professionalize these artisan miners so that they work in safe environments, or they need to find. The problem is when you are looking at these illegal mines where people are digging underground. One of the days it's just a matter of time before a road just, drops in, because these guys are digging under roads, they are digging under people's residential areas, they are digging and where there are gas pipes and everything. So it's a health risk to them and the people who are above ground not knowing that something is being done underground. In Zimbabwe, we've seen schools collapsing. We've seen these homes collapsing because these guys will be digging tunnels underneath houses.
Just a quick reminder that what you are seeing on screen, of course, some of the live visuals in Matoleville this time, where JMPD officers are trying to crack down on illegal mining activity in that particular area. Let's continue with you, Mr. Meshack. In your opinion, how could the legalization and the regulation of artisanal mining indeed help improve the situation?
Yeah, it's important that you firstly involved, because they are key players in Zamazamas, they're real Zamazamas. Then there's syndicates. But if you can get the right guys who went there because they wanted to put bread on the table and talk to them and say, look, we understand you are working in this situation and the environment, it might not be safe, but how can we really come up with a way forward or something, a solution to make sure we formalize this sector and it becomes safe and all the stuff, and then definitely show as people who are working there, they can come up with ideas to say, we cannot sit here and decide for them what is it that we can do. But the best thing that we can do is to open up a platform and sit down with them and say, what is it that we can do? Yeah. We went out and did a research in all South Africa and look at the Zamazans. We engaged them. We asked TMR again to say, let's together do a kind of a research and see how can we. They went out, they didn't do research in South Africa. I'm not sure which country, DRC, whatever. They went out there to do a research. And when they came back, they couldn't implement what they got from that side. And
Mr. Mbangula, please hold that thought as we are going to continue with this roundtable discussion, discussing this phenomena of illegal mining or so-called Zamazamas plaguing many parts of our country, more notably here in Gauteng, where, as you can see in Matoleville, an operation is currently underway to clamp down on illegal mining activity. From Macau, discussing this phenomena of illegal mining activity or so-called Zamazamas, which are operating in many parts of the country, including more specifically, as we've seen here in Gauteng. We saw residents of Riverlea coming up in arms in recent times over violence in that particular area. What you're seeing right now are scenes out in Matoleville, where JMPD has responded to the situation and trying to clamp down on illegal mining activity in that particular area. Let's continue with you, Mr. Mbangula. We had started speaking about how could the legalization and regulation of artisanal mining impact South Africa's economy as well as the unemployment rate. But are there any success stories or case studies from other countries that might offer insight into this issue?
One example, we engaged the regional manager in Kimberley from 2014 And amongst other things, in 2016, we marched to DMRE with all the Zamazamas, trying to push for an engagement with the DMRE regarding the formalizing the sector. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. But the regional manager in Kimberley and the provincial group municipality engaged us in talking about how can we really formalize the Zamazamas. And we managed to make sure that the Zamazamas form a co-op, and they were issued a permit in 2018 to start working in a formalized way. And that went very well. And we tried to use that, to set a sort of a precedent to other region, to other province, to make sure you formalize the sector and people are able to work there, because now they were able to sell the very same diamonds to the TPS or a Kappa mine in a right way, and now they were benefiting correctly so. But unfortunately, when we engaged DMR in other provinces to try and have this sector reformed, we were turned down. No one wanted to listen to us. And unfortunately, so we saw police now and then waiting out there to collect these or take the tools for these Zamazamas. And what is bad is that the unemployment rate is very high. And this is the sector, one of the sectors, as much as it is dangerous, but it was one of the sector to say, let's look at this sector and see how can it work. The problem is that our government believes investment only comes from outside. And you cannot, as Africans, South African, be able to do mining. Very few South Africans can have a permit or a license of mining. Why is that? We should be talking to that to say we need to improve the life of people. For them, again, to be able to say we own the minerals, we work on those minerals, and we benefit the country, and we reduce the number of unemployment. But that not is happening. What is happening is we only have to be workers, more than slaves, to the mines. And when the mine closes down, we've got nothing else to do. And that is the problem. We need to engage the very same Zamazamas and talk to them and say, how can we start doing that? But now, if by 2014 they've listened to us when we were engaging Zamazam, we wouldn't be in this situation. We would have been somewhere, and there would have problems, but we've been somewhere. But since we neglected this thing, and it was over, out of hand, and police are the least people who understand what is happening in this industry. They don't understand, and they're just treating the symptoms. They will close this shaft. Tomorrow, some people will be there. We need to work. They say you catch a thief, you use a thief to catch a thief. It's only time we can use the Zamazamas to talk to them and see how can we assist in solving this problem.
Mr. Ndebele, to take from Meshack's words, this situation requires a lot of understanding, but could you share with us some practical examples or evidence of the serious environmental harms caused by illegal mining, as mentioned in your documentary as well?
Yeah, the situation is not going to go away. So like he's saying, the government will need to face it and have an inter or multi-sectorial approach. Police alone are not going to solve it. But we have a problem where I live in Bulawayo, where these illegal miners are now actually doing stream bank mining. So they're digging in rivers, some of the main rivers that are supplying our city with water, diverting water or river banks or rivers at some point to where they actually clean their gold. The other problem with illegal mining is that if not regulated, they use dangerous chemicals like mercury. So these chemicals end up in water bodies, underground, and it's a lot. But also it comes with the social ills, like gangs. Where there is mining, there tends to be gangs. Where different gangs will fight over, the turf, the areas. Women tend to be abused. Kids tend to be abused. During COVID, we saw a lot of kids dropping out of school to go to work in mines. So you end up having child labor. And also there's a lot of corruption. So the authorities that are supposed to be making sure that these areas are safe, they also get bribed. So the operation will happen today. Tomorrow, someone within the police or whichever enforcement agent will alert the Zamazamas that the police are coming today, and they will move to another area. So the challenges are huge. And where there is mining in urban areas, it is even dangerous because we are saying people can actually mine along highways, they can mine in industrial areas, they can mine where there is gas, where there is fuel, and this is why you end up with the unexplained explosions that are happening. Because in some of these old mines, there is a lot of methane gas that has been concentrating for a long time. And just a spark by a rock can lead to a very huge explosion.
Mr. Mbangula, we've heard from Zenzele there speaking about the involvement of organized crime. But how does the involvement of, call it organized crime and corruption in the illegal mining further exacerbate these challenges faced by South Africa and affected mining communities here?
Well, as Zenzele has put it, it's clear that is mostly it's the very same big syndicates from the government, even police, even the mine themselves, who use the very same Zamazamas to go out there and get these minerals for them because they get it very cheap. The Zamazamas are so-called illegal. I don't call them illegal, but they use them because now they're trying to bribe or give this to get something to. The only people that get rich because of this is the syndicate, the kingpins that needs, like Zenzele put it straight. These are the people that we need to track and get them, rightly so, because they are using these people. And what happened now is if they end up collecting other people and give them guns to fight the other people. In any way, where there is mining, there's a problem. Because even the formalized mining, people are not complying. People will find that is the contaminated water, pollution, cracking houses, dust, degraded infrastructure, and no complying. People are not benefiting. Unemployment rate is very high. So we need to make sure that the real problem is the regulator, DMRE, because supposed to work on these issues. And what is disappointing, it's amongst other things, that is, in Reveli, we haven't even seen the minister or somebody going there to see what is happening. It's only police who don't even have an idea what is happening. We need people who understand what is happening so that we engage with these issues. If we can have a platform is very important. The communities will say what is that they are problematic. Zamazama will have that, and the DMR will be sitting in between to try and see how can we bring all these things together and solve it. But as long as unemployment rate is high, poverty, inequality is so much in South Africa, we will definitely, the problem will continue. It will, rather than going down, it will go up, because people still won't sit down and say, I'm going to die hungry. They'll go where something they can get, to get food, to put bread on the table.
Very quickly, Meshack, are there any notable initiatives or efforts by NGOs such as yourself to indeed address the issue of illegal mining and its impact on communities?
We managed to form the organization of the Zamazamas to commit themselves to say, look, we are prepared to engage and come up with plans to and contribute to the to the economy and do the right things. But as long as that TMR doesn't want to, we have heard the minister before saying straight that is, I'm not going to talk to the facts, and that itself becomes a barrier of us trying to make sure that everything it's in order. He promised last time that he's going to close all the open shaft. As of today, even Krugersdorp, we haven't seen anything happening. So those people, they really like to talk right and do left. That's the problem. But I believe if we can have that platform, because we have ideas of saying, we've got the surface Zamazamas, we've got underground Zamazamas, and all those Zamazamas have ideas to say, how can we really formalize the sector and make sure everything is safe and contribute to the economy.
Zenzele, let's also quickly get your final thoughts. I mean, your documentary seems to offer a global perspective on illegal mining. How do these challenges and dynamics here in South Africa indeed compare to those in other regions, as discussed in this document?
Yeah, the region is basically facing a problem of illegal mining, be it in South Africa or in Zimbabwe or in other areas. And authorities need to face this head on. They cannot continue to bury their heads in the sand. And like we said, it is very important that they realize that as long there is unemployment, as long there is inequality, Zamazamas are going to exist one way or the other. They can arrest 10 tomorrow. The next generation will be Zamazamas. How do they address this thing holistically? By including them in the economy, by making sure that where they mine is safe, by educating them on the future, because people are basically, burying their future and poisoning the future of our generation by poisoning wells, by poisoning underground water, by destroying infrastructure. But this mining can be done in a proper way, and it can create employment. It can increase the stake of black people in the economy. And these people cannot be ignored because they're not going anywhere.
There's Meshack Mbangula from MACUA giving us some perspective around the complexities on illegal mining or so-called Zamazamas.